know about you, but I love Pokemon leak season. And in this video, we're gonna talk about some of the biggest leaks of all time. Let's do it.
Butterfree, go!
Yo, whoa, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I bring you guys a brand new video today, and today we are jumping into the biggest Pokemon leaks of all time. There have been some incredible leaks over the last couple of years, and it seems as though every year the leaks get crazier and crazier, with the most recent Pokemon Sword and Shield leaks basically leaking the entire game before it even came out. And even as of just a few weeks ago, the Crown Tundra has seemingly leaked as well. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the 5 biggest Pokemon leaks in recent memory, and we're gonna have some fun digging through all of these leaks that were not just rumors, they were actually confirmed to be true. Be sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe if you guys are new, and let me know in the comments section below if you remember going through any of these leak periods, because to me, these are all like pretty big memories for me. I made videos about all this stuff, and it's crazy to see that they actually came true. We're gonna have some fun with this video. I'm excited to jump into it, so let's do it. The first leak I want to talk about is actually the Meltan leak for Pokemon Go. What was crazy was Meltan was originally supposed to be released as part of Chikorita's Community Day. However, this Pokemon was actually hidden in the game files disguised as Kecleon. I actually remember when the first images of this Pokemon surfaced on the internet, and people were incredibly skeptical of whether or not Meltan, which at the time was called things like Ditto Nut, was actually going to be a real Pokemon. It wasn't until the Chikorita Community Day that took place in other parts of the world where they actually started spawning, and there were still question marks about the legitimacy of this Pokemon. But I remember the internet going crazy, so much so there was just so much controversy of whether or not this was actually a real Pokemon. I remember having discussions with other Pokemon content creators, wondering why the Pokemon Go content creators were being awfully silent when this thing was leaking. Again, it was crazy that Niantic hid this Pokemon into the Pokemon Go game files as a Kecleon, hoping that no one would even notice. I don't even think Kecleon's out in Pokemon Go yet. They tried to disguise it there, but ultimately the data miners were able to dig it up, and again, there was just so much controversy of whether or not this was a real Pokemon. One of the things I loved about the Meltan leak was this was one of the coolest and biggest reveals of Pokemon history. Generally, Pokemon leaks have kind of stemmed from people getting access to the games early, or maybe, you know, some of the game files kind of end up leaking on the internet or whatever it may be. But in the case of Meltan, it was something that was actually planned. I don't know if they planned for it to leak a couple days early, but it was planned to be a global release, and it was one of the most hype Pokemon mythical releases of all time, in my opinion. I have some really fond memories of that, and we've got some really cool clips of me covering it on YouTube, and again, a bunch of other content creators interacting and wondering whether or not this thing was real. The Meltan or Ditto Nut leak took the entire Pokemon community by storm, and it was quite a bit of fun to talk about. And now we all know and love Meltan and Melmetal. A little over 2 years ago, in the spring of 2018, an image surfaced on the internet that showcased a Pokemon trainer sitting atop a Lapras with an Eevee on its head. This image circulated the internet very, very quickly, and a lot of people speculated what it could be. Was this simply a high-definition version of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon? Was it meant to be a teaser for the next Pokemon game coming forward? I remember there was a lot of waves and a lot of controversy over this image. The image I'm discussing is, of course, the Pokemon Route 21 Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee leak that featured Lapras and, again, the trainer with their Eevee sitting atop their head. People analyzed this picture to no end, looking at that Gyarados tail, looking at that Magikarp, and trying to determine whether or not they felt that this was a real image. Digging back, what was also funny about this leak was that it came right around April Fool's time. I think it actually came out on April Fool's, which made everyone even more confused, assuming that it just had to be an April Fool's troll. My favorite is looking back at some of the comments that are saying, this has to just be a blurred emulator of Pokemon Sun and Moon. There's no way this is real. But guess what? It did turn out to be real, as it was Route 21 in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and it came out months and months and months before the game was actually even revealed. When you look back to this Lapras leak, I think when you factor in the timing being right around April Fool's, you factor in the fact that a lot of people thought it was simply Ultra Sun and Moon, and people didn't expect this Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee style game, and you factor in just the sheer controversy over this image, it made for a really, really fun leak season where people went back and forth trying to determine whether or not it was real, but this definitely goes down as one of the most historic leaks of all time. A few years prior to that Lapras leak, we actually had a huge leak on the internet for Pokemon Sun and Moon. Rowlet, Poplio, and Litten had been revealed, but their final evolutions had not been at the time, and this image sheet detailing out the various characters and their animations came onto the internet, and it was too good to be true. It looks so incredible in terms of the art designs and some of the characters involved in those style sheets that a lot of people wrote it off as it had to be true, but there were still a lot of people who thought that maybe this leak could be fake. One of the things that's crazy about this is I distinctly remember people analyzing Ash, Mallow, and the Incineroar image from this leak, wondering whether or not that was real because they compared it to, I guess, some anime teasers and things like that, and there was just so much controversy over this image. Now again, a lot of these leaks ended up coming out months before the actual Pokemon were revealed, and that was the case with this Decidueye, Primarina, and Incineroar leak. It was at least a month or two before the games actually came out, which was a huge curveball, especially since I think a lot of people had this idea in their head of what Torracat and what Dartrix and what Brionne were going to evolve into. And then of course this kind of did not align with what a lot of people thought, so there was just a lot of questions about it. There was a lot of doubt, and there was definitely a lot of controversy. But obviously once the Pokemon Sun and Moon games were finally revealed, we did get confirmation that this Chinese leak was indeed true and came out, like I said, a few months before the actual games did. A pretty historic and iconic leak in the community. When we talk about historic and iconic leaks, there is one that stands out above the rest, and that is the Ben Affleck Leak. The Ben Affleck Leak was a leak that came out months and months and months before Sword and Shield came out. It actually came out on May 2019, and Sword and Shield obviously didn't come out until November of 2019. But this is the one that took the entire Pokemon community by storm. We probably covered it at least a dozen times in videos over the course of the few months because it seemingly accurately predicted almost every single trailer that was following at that point in time. So this individual must have had some sort of insider information, maybe even worked on one of the teams that developed those trailers, because this person knew so many things about the game before it even came out. And it's funny to look back on and see exactly how accurate this post was. It correctly predicted your rival's name. It correctly predicted your two rivals, Beedee and Marnie. It talks about Team Yell. It talks about the gym challenge and getting an endorsement. It talks about Beedee getting the endorsement from Chairman Rose and the Secretary Oleana. It talks about Eternatus. This is even before the legendaries. There's the two legendary wolves, Zacian and Zamazenta. It talks about Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing. This spoiled Gigantamax before we even knew what it was. It talked about Meowth getting a giant form as a Gigantamax and Lapras having musical bars around it. This thing was nuts, dude. It talked about Sonya being Leon's rival, Farfetch getting a regional evolution, Surfetch, and Meowth getting a regional evolution. And at the time, people were like, wait a minute, how is Meowth gonna get this Gigantamax form you're talking about and then get another regional evolution? That sounds so fake, but it was all real. It talked about Squovet and Greedent, the two chipmunk squirrel Pokemon. It talked about the different gym leaders, Milo, Nessa, Kabu. It had so many things. It talked about the transit system to the wild area and the fact that it's got a weather system with open pockets. Talked about camping, Pokemon beside you in the, they do not walk beside you in the overworld map. It talks about and this is the part that really had people crazy. Scorbunny will have fighting moves, but is pure fighter. And everyone was like, what does pure fighter mean? Was that a typo? Was it supposed to say pure fire? And everyone was speculating whether Scorbunny was going to be a fire and fighting type or just a pure fire type. Lots of questions there. Sobble becomes Sizzile, and then Inteleon, a chameleon with a spy theme. Grookey ends up as a giant gorilla that beats a wood drum to attack. And the best Pokemon so far is the blue seagull that when it dives, it either gets a Barracuda in its mouth or a Pikachu, which it launches at its enemy. And again, the Affleck Leak, absolutely historic, basically was the Bible for basically rumors and leaks going into Pokemon Sword and Shield. Anytime there was something that leaked or was a rumor or anything, we always looked back at the Affleck Leak, which was pretty crazy to think about just how much this thing predicted months and months in advance before Pokemon Sword and Shield came out. The only explanation is this individual either had a time-traveling machine or they were truly an insider working at Pokemon or one of the companies that was affiliated with Sword and Shield at the time. Absolutely legendary. To kind of piggyback off the Affleck Leak, right before Sword and Shield came out, there was a handful of images that leaked on the internet just days before the release date. This individual, however, is actually facing legal action from Nintendo and Pokemon Company International for having access to a guidebook and seemingly signing some sort of non-disclosure agreement stating that they would not release any of this information, and then they actually released images from the guidebook. I remember being actually live on stream covering Pokemon like Nickit when they first came out, covering a ton of different Pokemon that were leaking as they were leaking. leaking, and it was an insane period of time. Unfortunately, a lot of that footage has been taken off the internet because Nintendo had actually started taking people's videos down, despite the fact that that's actually kind of a breach of free journalism and press. But nevertheless, you know, they did go after that guy, and I believe there is a pending lawsuit right now, and some crazy stuff coming out regarding that. But again, these games, they leak historically, and that was a really big one. I remember seeing Gigantamax Machamp leaking, remember seeing Gigantamax Centiskorch, and I remember legitimately sitting there saying, how do I not look at this? Like, I don't want to look, I don't want to look, I don't want to be spoiled. But I eventually kind of fell to the pressure and had to dive headfirst into all the leaks, and it's so hard to not look, man. It's really so hard. And the last leak, and really the most recent leak, is actually the Crown Tundra leaks, and this is a proper spoiler warning for those who don't want to know, but a lot of the information for the Crown Tundra has actually leaked already, and I have covered that in other videos on the channel. Through data mining of the Isle of Armor, we know a ton of stuff about the Crown Tundra, including what we believe to be the entire Pokedex. We believe that Calyrex has multiple forms, that it can kind of fuse with other Pokemon. We know that there's different fly locations. There's some sort of tie-in with the Ultra Beasts and obviously the Reggies. We know so many things about the Crown Tundra, and it's not even out yet. We're still months and months in advance. So there's plenty of leaks in store for us to come over the next coming months, but we got so much information from the Isle of Armor data mine regarding the Crown Tundra, which is pretty crazy stuff. Now, obviously, anytime we cover a rumor or a leak on the channel, we have to kind of take it with a grain of salt because you never know what's going to be true and what is someone simply just making stuff up on the internet. But as you can see from this video, things do fall through the cracks, and there are real leaks that do take place in the Pokemon community leading up to a game launch. It's quite a fun time when you're getting all hyped up for a new Pokemon game, and there seems to be new rumors swirling every single day. It's honestly one of my favorite times to create content because it's just so fun to let your imagination truly run wild. This isn't even all the leaks. These are just some of the ones from the more recent past, but I thought it'd be fun to talk about them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you guys are new. Get those notifications turned on, and let me know in the comment section below if you have any fond memories of these leaks happening or any of the coverage that we did here on our YouTube channel. If you'd like me to dive a little deeper into some of the more old school leaks, let me know as well, and I'd be happy to cover that in a future video. I want to thank you guys again for checking out this video. If you guys enjoyed this one, I think you're gonna love this one. YouTube, however, thinks that you're gonna like this one, so check out one of these two videos, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.